Welcome back to Podcast of the Damned. My name is Oz. I want to start out by giving a huge thank you to everyone who watched my first episode, and everyone who's been supporting me on social media, and all my friends who have been supporting me. It really takes a lot of effort to do this, because I'm literally working on this every chance I can get. And I know this week the episode might come out a little later because it was my birthday on the 20th and I've been doing a lot of running around. So I apologize if this is indeed late. This is episode 2, and we will be covering the Arne Johnson trial, also known as the Devil Made Me Do It case. You've probably heard of this case if you're a horror fan from The Conjuring 3. There was also a really cool documentary on Discovery Plus about it called The Devil Made Me Do It. I would definitely recommend giving that a watch. It's a journey, let me tell you. It really is. It's such a strange case in the sense that it just became this huge media frenzy and it reached newspapers all over the world. But it starts out in 1980 with Arne Johnson and his girlfriend Debbie Glatzel. They started cleaning out a house that they had just started renting. They had Debbie's younger brother David helping them along with other family members. And when David was cleaning out the master bedroom, he claimed he saw an old man who would later appear as, and I quote, "a man with big black eyes, a thin face with animal features, jagged teeth, pointed ears, horns, and hooves." That is what his mother told People magazine. She also claimed the entity told David to beware. And David also claimed that it had pushed him. When he told Arne and Debbie this, they first thought that David was saying it to get out of cleaning. And he went on to tell them that the being would harm them if they moved into the rental property. But soon after that, David began having visions of the demonic beast where it would speak in Latin and threaten to take his soul. Oh, I know he's a kid, but if I saw that and then it started, I started to have visions about this thing and it threatened to take my soul, I would immediately call a priest and be like, what the hell is wrong with me? I'd either go to a priest or a psychiatrist because that is alarming. The family started to hear noises coming from the attic, but they never saw the demon. Only David had seen the thing. They eventually had a priest attempt to bless the house after David started acting strange. He began having night terrors and suffered from unexplained scratches and bruises. Of course, the blessing didn't work, so Arne and Debbie basically abandoned all hope and stopped renting the house. Which, good call. Very good call. They thought this would stop the demon, but spoiler alert, it did not. They moved in with Debbie's family thinking the demon wouldn't follow them, but it did. And soon enough, the family called in Ed and Lorraine Warren as David's conditions worsened. This is why I did the Ed and Lorraine episode before anything else, so you could get a better idea. I explained that in the last episode. They observed him growling and hissing. He would talk about death and frequently quote Paradise Lost. And Debbie told the Warrens to have seen David being beaten and choked by an invisible force. Lorraine saw a black mist appear next to David, which is never a good sign. Family members would take turns watching him during the night because he would convulse uncontrollably. And then that's when the Warrens told the family David was indeed possessed by an astounding, not one, not two, but 43 demons. Which at that point, just throw the whole child away. You got more kids. Just throw the child away. They put David through 3 lesser exorcisms. Because with exorcisms, you have to get them approved, by the church. The Vatican has to look into it and all that. So it really is quite a process. And not a lot of exorcisms occur because of that. Lorraine said that during these exorcisms, David levitated. He stopped breathing at one point and foretold Arne murdering his landlord. Despite this, the Diocese of Bridgeport told People magazine that the situation with David and the Glatzels was investigated by the church, but no exorcisms took place. There's, of course, a lot of controversy, as with any of the Warrens' cases. Multiple people, including David's brother Carl, said that these events never happened. They basically just said that the family was trying to exploit David's mental illnesses, which is gross. Like, that is beyond wrong if that's, actually what happened. But bringing it back to the story, that October, the Warrens contacted the police to let them know that the situation was becoming dangerous. In one of David's exorcisms, Arne decided to drink a healthy dose of dumb bitch juice and challenge the demon to possess him and leave David. Now, for all of you who don't know a damn thing about demons, do not do this. This is beyond stupid and just unbelievably dumb. Words cannot describe how stupid this is. He was on that dumb shit. He really was. And the demon said, fuck around and find out. And Arne did find out. 2 months later, everything seemed normal. David went back to being himself, and Arne hadn't experienced anything out of the ordinary. Debbie and Arne eventually moved on with their lives, or at least tried to. And Debbie got a job working at Alan Bono's dog kennel in Brookfield. Because of her job, Arne and Debbie were able to live in the apartment on the kennel's property, and Alan lived in the apartment that was located above the kennel. The 3 eventually became really good friends and would often hang out and drink together. But on February 16th, 1981, that all changed. At 6:30 p.m., the police dispatch sent out a call that there had been a fight at the dog kennel. Joe Lamparelli, a patrolman, was the first on the scene. When he got there, Alan Bono had stumbled outside appearing to be stabbed. Debbie confirmed this when she ran out of the apartment yelling to Lamparelli to help Alan with his stab wound. He felt a pulse, and Alan was then cared for by paramedics. He, unfortunately, later died at the hospital. Debbie ended up telling police that Arne was the one who stabbed Alan after they had gotten into a fight, and she didn't know where Arne had gone. So, what caused this was apparently Alan, from what I got, Alan, he put his hands on Debbie or something, not in an aggressive manner, but just, I guess, grabbing her shoulder or something, and that set Arne off. Detective Sergeant John Lucas arrived at the scene where Lamparelli filled him in on the situation. Arne was eventually spotted by one of the ambulance crew on their way back into town. The ambulance driver, Norman Ellis, let police know he spotted him, and he just so happened to be at the Glatzel family's house. Strangely enough, Norman just walked right up to Arne and just held on to him until the police arrived. Arne didn't try to fight back or anything. Norman just walked right up to him and grabbed him. When the police got there, Arne told him, "Something happened, I just can't remember." The officers on the scene said he didn't seem like he could have done this, and he seemed really confused. Arne then got taken into police custody. When he was questioned by John Lucas, Arne said that there was no way and couldn't believe Alan was dead. The running theory by the Glatzels is that the demon waited for the right moment to take temporary possession of Arne, and they say that the demon wanted to punish him for taunting it. The day after the killing, Lorraine Warren informed the Brookfield police that Johnson was possessed when the crime was committed. After that, a media shitstorm surrounded the story. The Warrens helped fuel this a lot. Like, they were all over the press. You know, they were talking to whatever reporters they could find, doing interviews. Their agents were promising that lectures, books, and movies were gonna be made about this case, which, yeah, it happened. Johnson's lawyer, Martin Minella, received calls from all over the world about the demon murder trial. He traveled to England to meet with lawyers who had dealt with similar cases, but those cases never ended up going to trial. He also planned to fly in exorcism specialists from Europe, and he also threatened to subpoena the priests who oversaw David's exorcism if they didn't cooperate with the defense, which is kinda sketchy. The trial took place in Connecticut Superior Court in Danbury. It started in October 28, 1981. There were some strange things that happened on the first day of the trial. The lights flickered on and off, and a janitor was sent to investigate, but he found nothing that was causing it. And Lorraine had stated that the jurors were being affected by demonic forces, and even said one of their sons was hit by a car. But at least that's what one reporter claimed she told him. Minella attempted to submit a plea of not guilty by virtue of possession, but the judge, Robert Callahan, he rejected this defense, obviously, because he argued that no defense could ever be used in a court of law, mainly due to a lack of evidence, and that it would be irrelative and unscientific to allow that testimony. So they switched to saying Johnson acted in self-defense. And because of this, you know, the jury wasn't allowed to consider demonic possession as a viable explanation. The jury ended up deliberating for 15 hours over the course of 3 days before convicting Arne of first-degree manslaughter. The trial ended in November 24th, 1981, and he was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison, but he got out in 5 years due to good behavior. The aftermath of the case was nothing short of messy. The incident led to the creation of a film entitled The Demon Murder. It aired on NBC, and there were preparations for a feature film, but that was stalled due to, like, internal conflicts. In 1983, Gerald Brittle, with the assistance of Lorraine Warren, published a book about the incident called The Devil in Connecticut. Lorraine said all the money that they got from the book were shared with the family. It is confirmed that $2,000 was paid to the family by the book publisher. Upon the book's republication in 2006, David Glatzel and his brother Carl Glatzel Jr. sued the authors and book publishers for violating their right to privacy, libel, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Wow, that's a mouthful. Carl also said that the book claimed he committed criminal and abusive acts against his family, and he said the whole, like, possession thing was a hoax by Ed and Lorraine Warren to exploit the family and his brother's mental illness. That's what it was. And he said the book made him look like the villain because he didn't believe in the supernatural. He also said that the Warrens told them that the story would make the family rich and would help Arne get out of jail, which it did not. It did not. I mean, honestly, what were they expecting to happen? Because they had to have known that, demonic possession was not going to be allowed in court. Like, no one was going to take it seriously. So they had to have known to some extent that wasn't going to work, but A for effort, I guess. Don't know till you try. But apparently this whole thing caused Carl to drop out of school and lose a lot of friends. And in 2007, he wrote a book called Alone Through the Valley, and it's basically his version of what happened. But of course, Lorraine defended her work with the family, and they also said that 6 priests who were involved agreed that the boy was possessed, and that all the events that happened were indeed real. Brittle, who is the author of The Devil in Connecticut, says he wrote the book because the family wanted the story told. And he also has over 100 hours worth of his interviews with the family, and that they all signed off on the book, like, to say it was correct before it went to print. David's father, Carl Glatzel Sr., he denied telling the author that David was possessed, but Debbie and Arne do support the Warrens, depiction of demonic possession, and that Carl and David and Carl Sr. are just suing for monetary purposes. They're just doing that for the money. But like I talked about at the beginning, this all inspired The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I thought the movie was good. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, because I always like to see Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson play Ed and Lorraine Warren, because they do it perfectly. Like, they're able to show, like, how much love Ed and Lorraine Warren had for each other, and the amount of care they gave to each of the families, because that was a huge part of what they were about. They didn't just do it for, like, the fame or whatever. They did it to help people, and they really captured that in these movies. But I did like the twist they put on the movie, because they made it so, like, this Satanist put a curse on the house or whatever, put, like, a death spell in it. I thought that was a really cool twist on it. Did I think it was as scary as the other ones? No, not really. But I did really enjoy it. This whole case leads to the 2 questions. One is demonic possession a viable defense, and can the devil make you do it? For the first question, I don't think it's a viable defense. I really don't. Just because, like, it is out there, and there's no, like, real way to prove that someone's possessed. And if it was a viable defense, I mean, how many people would claim they were possessed by a demon just to get out of, like, being convicted of a crime? Like how a bunch of people use the insanity plea to try to get out of, going to prison. I just don't think it would ever hold up in a court of law. But also, on the other hand, can the devil make you do it? I do believe in possession. I believe that can happen. And I do believe that demons can make you do some really messed up stuff. Taking the story like at face value, let's just say everything did happen. Arne was indeed, for a fact, possessed by a demon. I do believe whatever demon possessed Arne would be capable of doing something like this. Because if you think about it, I mean, in possession cases, like, people levitate and, you know, scratches appear on people, you know, the whole 9 yards, like, violent things happen. So if a demon has control of you, what's stopping it from killing someone or, like, hurting someone else? You know, like, if you really think about it, like, it's not impossible. It just wouldn't hold up in a court, because you, as much pictures and EVPs and whatever other evidence, you can't for a fact prove 100% without a doubt that this stuff exists. And it's frustrating as a paranormal investigator, honestly, that you can't without a doubt prove that this exists. Because as much as you want everyone to believe in this, there's always going to be skeptics, and there's always going to be, you know, that little voice of doubt, like, you know, what if none of this is real? What if it was just caused by, you know, something? But that's where I stand on it. So yeah, that was the Arne Johnson case. I find this case interesting, you know, with how much media attention was drawn to this. You know, it was like everywhere. And honestly, I would have loved to, like, be in the courtroom during this trial just to, like, see everything go down. Even though, you know, that defense wasn't viable and it wasn't allowed in court, I would have still liked to be there. Because it was honestly an event. Like, people were coming from everywhere to be a part of this and, like, watch it happen. Anyways, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I really hope you enjoy it, and make sure, if you want to stay updated, make sure to follow my Twitter at POTD_official_, and follow my Instagram at POTD_official. And if you would like to request a story, comment on, you know, my Instagram page, leave comments, you know, down below, and make sure to like and subscribe and hit the little bell notification to get notified when there's new videos coming out. But I hope you enjoyed this, and have a nice night.